Hi guys, gnembon here and welcome to this video. Today what I initially planned to show you was a really practical and useful item elevator. It got carried away and revamped the entire sorting system in the process. I hope you don't mind. And I'm really pleased with the result. You know, the main issues people have with complex item sorting systems is that they tend to lag the hell out of your game. And since they are complex systems, they tend to break in various different places. So in today's update to this classic wall of chest type design, we will focus on these two aspects, creating something surprisingly friendly to your computer or to your server. The wall of chest type of sorting system is by far my favorite, not only because it can host massive number of items in a smaller space, but also it's a feat of engineering in itself because the only access to the chest we have through single hoppers in the back, and all of them we have to control independently to some degree. Because we don't have too much space for labels, it does take a little getting used to remembering what we have in a chest or shulker box, but in practice with some hints that we can leave around, plus the colors of the shulker boxes, it doesn't take long at all to learn it all. Mixing chests and shulker boxes is also a great option. Shulker boxes we can always take with us, and if we eventually need to sort them out, we can just attach them back to the sorting system. And with chests, the fact that we can store shulker boxes with the items we have plenty of next to the actual items, which are affected by our sorting, this makes for a very flexible, organized and spacious storage system. But first, let's go to that item elevator I was talking about and why it is important for these types of sorting systems. So here it is, and nowadays due to the fact that items can now travel by themselves through the blocks, these types of elevators are not that popular, but they can have many benefits. Like this one, it's proper silent, infinitely expandable, and with some restrictions due to a very old bug can do 70 to 100 items per second, which is at the brink of torch burnout. And if you slow it down to 6000 items per second, it's tileable, have nothing in front of it, have nothing below, so if we need to attach it to something, we have space for it in the front, or we can for example use it directly at the bedrock level because it doesn't use any spaces below. The design is very simple. We read the content of the bottom dropper with a comparator into a torch, into a block and repeater on 2 or 3, it depends, we'll talk about that in a moment, which feeds into the storage tower that silently pushes items through. And then we use the bottom part of the storage tower as part of our clock by detecting it with the rail and observer that feeds the clock loop back again. And it does so happen that it does it silently. This design here, if we plop some items in it, can pump 70 to 100 items per hour, as you can see, which is limited at 70 to 100 by torch burnout rate. And this setup with this repeater on 2 should be sufficient to run and be fully tileable, but there is an old nasty bug, a 5-year-old one, MC2340, that prevents it from happening. So when we have two torches that can update each other, powered by a 2-tick repeater, one of them shortens its pulse for some reason, which prevents it from triggering the other redstone torch in the tower. Like we can see here, this one should trigger, but it didn't. If we lengthen the pulse on the repeaters to 3 ticks, everything now is in perfect sync, which means that we can tile the storage towers and this elevator works regardless of the direction, because that bug I just mentioned is actually directional. For tiled solution, we need repeaters on 3, and we need to alternate between regular golden rails and activator rails on top of these observers. Now, as with everything that has blinking redstone torches, to prevent light updates to propagate and improve the performance, we have to make sure that the block light level at the torch position is 8 or higher to prevent it from sending its own block light updates every time it blinks. So I used here this jack-o'-lantern, for example, which lights up all these torches around, which funnily enough, despite being a full block, you can attach a torch to the side of it, but cannot place a torch on top of it. Figure this out. So to test it, we can first verify what our current background TPS is with nothing running, which is almost 4000 TPS. So now we can add a little bit of fuel to these elevators so they can have something to elevate. And as you can see, it all works just fine. Our torches are blinking, and without the light sources we have about 450 TPS. And if we switch to jack-o'-lanterns, we have about 1000, which judging by the background TPS is likely a 3 times improvement. So as you can see, lighting is a very important thing in this case. So let's go back to the sorting system. Now, I have to say that many of the design clues I used here are a result of me going through the sorting system world download by Cybot2419. Here's a link to them available on his Twitter at Cybot2419. So guys, if you want to check them out, I encourage you to do so, as he has all sorts of multi-item sorting systems for all requirements and layouts. So first, an obvious change to the sorter is a more reliable elevator. The old design used hopper clocks, which can duplicate items if the system is running and you unload the chunks, causing the system to stall, apart from the general fact that the hoppers are in general bad for the environment. So that was kinda a no-brainer, and makes the design also one block smaller, so that's great. The next changes I propose are optional but highly recommended. So to give you an overview how this sorting works, we feed items to these elevators that cycle items in loops into each slice of the system, and then we allow hoppers in the front to push these items into available slots in the attached containers. Whatever does not find its way into the storage gets dumped into the dump chest at the end. Below we have a simple pulse extender, primary and secondary, with a clock that powers and unpowers the hoppers. To keep the clock running, we need to detect that the items are still cycling through the system. Previously we did it with these comparators up front, but blinking lights is not the best idea for the performance reasons, plus it doesn't add anything apart from the coolness factor, and make the design use a lot of space in the front. So I moved it to the back, like in my previous sorting systems, borrowing the signal from the elevators, now as we have proper elevators that can signal that they have items in them. This results in much simpler control circuit, like here, and the only thing I left is the indicator lamp that turns on when the system is sorting items, just doesn't blink, and obviously it's optional. Now at this point, if we force the system on, we can see that still we have tons of redstone wire blinking, and for performance it's better if we replace it with something else. And my idea was to use powered rails instead. Rails are really cool because they are really dumb. If you power them, they should technically power up to 9 rails in each direction, but as you can see, they're not that clever and don't send all the updates, so we can trick them pretty easily to either not power or power too many rails at once, as they should. And that's really cool because it means that the rails will be the most lag effective way of transmitting signals, because they are the dumbest. But I couldn't figure out the layout until I found the key to the solution in one of Cybot's sorting systems. To properly cycle the sorting hoppers, we need to power them for at least 5 redstone ticks and depower them for next 5 redstone ticks. And this gives the speed of 1 item per second, or 3600 items per hour. To use rails, we need to use observers and fit all of it between the elevators and sorters, and what Cybot suggested is to use a 5 tick long signal, and if we observe it with an observer, with a repeater on 3 ticks attached to it, we actually get a 6 ticks long pulse on the end of it, which is a little bit longer than necessary, but still fine. So as you can see, we can slow down the game clock and trigger this monostabler, and have here 3 plus 4, and this obviously gives 5, doesn't it, yeah? Okay, so as you can see, we have 6 repeaters here lighting up, and here we have our 6 tick signal. This means that the system won't be able to do exactly 1 item per second, or 3600 per hour, but slightly less, 3200 items per hour, which is about 10% less. But this allows us not only to fit all the circuitry inside here, but have it based on rails, which is much more lag friendly and in much more flexible configuration. The awesome thing is the fact that this design is also easily expandable upwards, unlike the redstone based one that we needed to stagger more and more and more to get the higher chest module. At the bottom, in terms of the control circuit, it runs on a slightly different clock, which is 11 tick cycle. But this one extra tick we have to spare, we can use as a simple torch tower to transfer signal up with the proper delays to power and unpower the rails in a proper moment. So as a downside, the system is 10% slower, and since items are not fully controlled like in the system up there, we need to match the speed of the elevators to the speed of the hoppers. Thankfully, Cybot got me covered in this regard as well by using this elevator with 2 repeaters on 4 ticks instead of the rail and the other repeater on 3. This matches perfectly the speed of the sorting system, allowing me not to worry about items not being sorted properly, to put it simply. How much improvement it is in terms of the performance? So if we check the background TPS around this area, due to all this stuff around, it's about 800 TPS. So let's trigger the previous redstone based system. And just with this module our TPS drops to about 200. It's not bad, but let's try the rails. Okay, so we are around the 500 TPS area. It's much better, trust me. And even if we make it sort something like so, we can see that the whole contraption hovers around 450, which is quite impressive. So we ended up with something that doesn't use pretty much any CPU at all, sorts our chests and can be easily expandable, so I thought let's go ham on it. Here, as we can see, we can easily expand the system with another set of shulker boxes. The only thing we needed is to move the entire top 3 blocks up, then drag the elevators up and repeat the pattern inside, and that's pretty much it. The only difference is how the elevators end. With odd number of chests or shulker boxes, in this case we had 3, we would point them straight into the hoppers on top. But with even number of rows, we have here 6, we needed to replace the top hoppers with droppers pointing in the same direction. A novice addition is a simple shulker box unloader, so after a completed project we can just simply dump all our project shulker boxes here. As you can see, we have some with wool and buttons left. We press the button and now all the stuff's gonna be unloaded and sorted. So we can see that all the red wool will be put in the proper red wool chest, and all the empty shulker boxes along with the unsorted stuff's gonna end up in the leftover chest. Pretty cool stuff. And since we are still doing pretty good with the TPS, I thought to go even more ham on it. And that's where this massive system from the beginning comes from. As you can see, this side of the system is perfectly cut off. So what I did, I thought I can just move the rail controls to the other side of the module and simply slap 2 of these modules together, leaving 1 block of gap in between. And that's how it turned out. So first we have our double enderchest module attached to the other one with mirrored control tower. And then I rotated the entire thing twice to have them all around and chain all of them together. So we have here 1 input chest and 1 output chest at the end, although we can still put items in the middle of the chain as well by accessing these chests here in the corners. And this here system I was able to run at 100 TPS, so I could even replicate the entire thing 5 times no problem, and now fit between the absolute 20 TPS limit. And FPS wise client is also doing very good, so no problems with that as well. So at the end, let's hop on to the tutorial section, which I updated with the modifications I made. As you can see, item elevators are all updated to the new ones. Now if you just want to remove the front section, there is this path here, since you have to make a little bit different redstone like control layout at the bottom. And then this path comes back to the previous steps without all the bits in the front. But if you prefer to go to the lag effective way, which I highly recommend, you should follow the green path. Couple things to notice: all these paths have different redstone at the bottom, but the exact same hopper and dropper layouts. This is the 3 high module setup, but with the green path you can move everything higher and add more rows of chests. Everything tiles upwards quite nicely. Also notice different elevator compared to the other sections, which is required. Don't forget the light sources as well. Also, when you place the rails, they might be sometimes annoying at times to place. Like in this direction I decided to build the entire thing. It's a pain in the butt, but this can be easily overcome by stretching each section of rails that you just did at the bottom by 1 before we place the row above it. Also at the bottom layer we can use furnaces or droppers. Droppers are generally better, but we will be placing repeaters here on top of them, so furnaces will prevent us from triggering the droppers, at least at the beginning, so we have a fully silent system. Also, good luck placing the last row of observers the proper way without the cactus tool. I think the easiest way without tearing out the hoppers would be just to push them in place with a piston from the side. So at the end we just need to attach the torch towers with the proper delays. Here on 1 and here 2 repeaters, 1 on 4 and 1 on 3. If you really want your storage model to be even, 10 blocks wide, not 9, you can just simply push this repeater 1 block deeper, add another one, and add 1 more tick to the other part, to 4, and now you can add 1 more slice to the system and rails will reach the other end as well. Again, if you want a higher design, just move these hoppers upwards by a few blocks, stretch the elevators and the circuitry in the middle. And if you really want to go sky high, which I don't recommend going more than 6 chests for practical reasons, you might need to add a little bit of pulse extender at the bottom, because items would take longer to cycle through each loop of the system, and you should be good. And that's pretty much it. There you have it, guys. New and improved wall storage system that will be nice to every computer that runs it. Oh, and don't forget the item elevator I showed at the beginning. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, don't forget to leave a like and share with others. If you have a question or have something to add, don't hesitate to use the comment section below, and see you in the next one. Bye bye!